Behind the laughs of this beloved 80s sitcom sequel lurked bizarre contract battles, a star who legally changed his middle name to his character's nickname, tragic production drama, and the surprising first acting gig that launched a comedy legend, proving that what happened behind the cameras was even stranger than what aired on screen. Fact 1. Martin Lawrence's career-launching first role. Before Martin Lawrence became one of the biggest names in comedy with his hit show Martin and blockbuster movies like Bad Boys, he was just a struggling young comedian trying to catch his big break on a television game show. In the mid-1980s, Lawrence competed on the talent competition Star Search, a show that launched many careers but didn't crown him as a winner. However, what seemed like a setback turned into the opportunity of a lifetime when executives at Columbia Pictures Television happened to catch his performance on the show. They were so impressed by his natural charisma and comedic timing that they reached out to offer him something he'd never had before, his very first professional acting role. That role was Maurice Warfield, a smart-mouthed teenage busboy who worked at the diner on What's Happening Now during the show's final 2 seasons from 1987 to 1988. For Lawrence, who had previously worked odd jobs including at a Sears store with the rap duo Kid and Play, this was his introduction to the world of scripted television. The role may have been a supporting character on a syndicated sitcom, but it gave the young comedian valuable experience in front of cameras and taught him how to work within the structure of a weekly television series. From this humble beginning on What's Happening Now, Lawrence went on to appear in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, landed his own Fox sitcom that ran for 5 seasons, and became a movie star who commanded over $10 million per film. Without that first break from Columbia Pictures television executives who saw potential in a Star Search performance, the entire trajectory of his career might have been completely different. Fact 2. Fred Berry legally changed his name. Fred Berry took his connection to his most famous character to an extraordinary level that few actors would ever consider by legally changing his birth name to reflect the role that made him a household name. Born Fred Allen Berry on March 19, 1951, he became so completely identified with the character of Freddie Rerun Stubbs from What's Happening that he eventually went to court and had his middle name officially changed from Allen to Rerun. This wasn't just a stage name or a nickname he used professionally, but an actual legal modification of his birth certificate and all official documents, making his name Fred Rerun Berry for the remainder of his life. The decision came after years of being recognized everywhere he went as Rerun rather than Fred, with fans constantly asking him to dance or calling out his character's catchphrase regardless of where he was, whether in grocery stores, restaurants, or even bathrooms. Rather than fight against this overwhelming public association with the character, Berry chose to embrace it completely by making it a permanent part of his legal identity. He often appeared in public wearing the character's signature red beret and suspenders, fully embodying the persona that had brought him fame and fortune. His daughter, Portia Berry Allen, later followed in her father's footsteps by performing under the stage name Lady Rerun, and even appeared in commercials using that name, keeping the family connection to the character alive. The name change represented how deeply the role had become intertwined with Berry's personal identity, showing just how powerful the impact of a beloved television character can be on an actor's real life beyond the screen. Fact 3. Berry's marriage record. Fred Berry's personal life was marked by an unusually complicated romantic history that became almost as memorable as his television career, as he walked down the aisle a total of 6 times during his 52 years of life, but only married 4 different women. This mathematical oddity meant that Berry actually remarried 2 of his former wives after divorcing them the first time around, creating a pattern of relationships that cycled back on themselves in a way that fascinated those who knew him. His first wife, Francesca Berry, was one of the 2 women he married twice, going through the experience of both marrying and divorcing her on 2 separate occasions. He also married and divorced women named Carrie Ann Ross and Darlene Bitton, along with another woman whose name was never publicly revealed. His 6th and final marriage was to Essie Berry in 1999, and she remained his widow after his death in 2003. This pattern of repeatedly returning to previous relationships earned Barry a memorable nickname in the entertainment industry, with one obituary referring to him as the Elizabeth Taylor of 70s sitcoms, comparing him to the famous actress who was known for her 8 marriages to 7 different husbands. Barry fathered 3 children throughout these various marriages, his daughters DeShannon and Portia, and his son Freddie, who worked professionally as Fred Barry Jr. The complexity of Barry's romantic life reflected the turbulent nature of his overall personal struggles during his years in Hollywood, as he navigated the challenges of fame, financial pressures, and the personal demons that would affect many aspects of his life beyond his marriage certificates. Fact 4, the sequel, had 1 more episode. In one of the strangest quirks of television history, the revival series What's Happening Now managed to outlast its predecessor by the slimmest possible margin, producing exactly 1 more episode than the original show that inspired it. The original series, What's Happening, aired on ABC from 1976 to 1979 and produced a total of 65 episodes across its 3-season run, establishing the characters and storylines that fans grew to love during those years. When the sequel series What's Happening Now launched in first-run syndication in 1985, it also ran for 3 seasons until 1988, but managed to squeeze out exactly 66 episodes during that time. This meant that despite both shows running for the same number of seasons and the revival being generally considered less popular than the original, the sequel technically had a longer episode count by just a single installment. The numbers became even more interesting when the 2 series were combined into a syndication package after What's Happening Now ended in 1988, creating a total library of 131 episodes that stations could air in rotation. This mathematical oddity likely came down to simple production scheduling and network orders rather than any intentional planning. But it created a unique situation where a revival series actually exceeded its source material in total output. The fact that the difference came down to just 1 episode makes it even more remarkable, as it could have easily gone the other way with different production decisions, leaving the original as the longer series despite the sequel's 3 full seasons on the air. Fact 5. Rerun vanished without explanation. When Fred Barry left What's Happening Now. After the first season ended, the show's writers made the bizarre decision to handle his departure by pretending his character had never existed at all, erasing Rerun from the show's universe without so much as a single line of dialogue to explain where he went. This treatment of a main character's disappearance has become known in television terminology as the Chuck Cunningham syndrome, named after a character on Happy Days who similarly vanished without explanation and was never mentioned again despite being part of the Cunningham family in early episodes. In Rerun's case, the erasure was particularly jarring because he had been one of the 3 core friends since the original series and was arguably the most popular character among fans, known for his dancing, his red beret, and his memorable catchphrases. After Barry's firing over salary disputes at the end of Season 1, the remaining 2 seasons of What's Happening Now simply carried on as if Rerun had never been part of the gang's adult lives, with no character asking where he was, no mention of him moving away, and no acknowledgement that Roger and Dwayne's lifelong best friend had suddenly ceased to exist. The other characters never referenced their memories of him or explained his absence to new characters who joined the show, creating a strange hole in the show's continuity that longtime viewers couldn't help but notice. This complete deletion from the narrative stood in stark contrast to how other shows handled cast departures, where characters typically received explanations like moving to another city, taking a new job, or at least getting a goodbye episode before disappearing from the series. Fact 6. The Nightmare Connection. Ken Sagoes led a remarkable double life as an actor during the late 1980s, simultaneously appearing in a family-friendly sitcom while also making horror movie history in one of the decade's most successful slasher franchises. After Fred Barry departed What's Happening Now, Sagoes joined the cast as a new character named Daryl for the show's 2nd and 3rd seasons from 1987 to 1988, bringing a fresh energy to the ensemble as one of the younger cast members. At the exact same time he was filming episodes of the sitcom, Sagoes was also starring in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, which was released in 1987, playing the role of Roland Kincaid, a tough street kid with superhuman strength in his dreams who fought against the terrifying Freddy Krueger. What made his role particularly groundbreaking was that Kincaid not only survived until the end of Dream Warriors, but also returned for the next film, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. The Dream Master in 1988, making Sagos the first African-American actor to survive a major horror film and come back for a sequel in the genre's history. This was a significant achievement in an era when black characters in horror movies were typically among the first victims to be killed off, rarely making it to the final scenes and almost never returning for follow-up films. Years later, Sagos reflected on the importance of his role, noting that he realized during filming that he was portraying something audiences didn't often see for black actors in the horror genre, creating a character who was both heroic and resilient across multiple films. Fact 7. Never aired on network television. What's Happening Now took an unconventional path to reaching television audiences by bypassing the traditional network system entirely and going straight to first-run syndication, a distribution model that was relatively unusual for a sequel series during the mid-1980s. While the original What's Happening had aired in prime time on the ABC network from 1976 to 1979 with a traditional weekly schedule, the revival series was produced by Columbia Pictures Television specifically for syndication markets, meaning it was sold directly to individual local television stations across the country rather than being broadcast on a single national network. This distribution method resulted in What's Happening Now airing at different times and on different channels depending on which city viewers lived in, with most markets choosing to schedule the show during weekday afternoon time slots rather than the evening primetime hours where major network sitcoms typically appeared. The decision to produce the show for syndication was based on the surprising success of the original series in reruns during the early 1980s when What's Happening had actually earned higher ratings in syndicated afternoon broadcasts than it had during its original network run, proving there was still a strong audience for these characters. This trend of taking former network shows and reviving them in first-run syndication was beginning to gain momentum in the 80s, with other series like Charles in Charge and Mama's Family following similar paths, but it remained an uncommon strategy that marked What's Happening Now as part of a new era in television production where shows could find success outside the traditional network system. Fact 8. Barry's million-dollar demand, Fred Barry's departure from What's Happening Now. After the first season came down to an explosive salary negotiation that shocked producers and ended his time on the show in dramatic fashion, according to his former co-star Ernest Thomas, who later discussed the incident publicly. After experiencing a taste of television success, once again with the revival series, Barry approached the show's producers with a bold financial demand, asking for $1 million up front as his salary for continuing with the show into its second season. This was an extraordinary amount of money for a syndicated sitcom in the mid-1980s, especially considering that Barry was one member of an ensemble cast rather than the sole star of the series. Barry firmly believed that his character Rerun was the primary reason viewers tuned in each week, and that his popularity from the original series justified this massive pay increase compared to what his fellow cast members were earning. When producers initially heard his demand, they assumed Barry was using an exaggerated negotiating tactic and that he would eventually come back with a more reasonable figure once they pushed back on his request. However, Barry made it crystal clear that he was completely serious about his asking price by telling the producers directly, "I mean what I said," leaving no room for interpretation that this was his actual position, rather than an opening gambit in a negotiation. The producers, realizing that Barry genuinely expected them to pay him $1 million and unwilling to meet such an extreme demand, decided to part ways with the actor rather than continue negotiations, resulting in Barry's firing before the second season began production. Fact 9. Mama Thomas's low salary rejection. Mabel King made the difficult decision to turn down the opportunity to return as the beloved Mama Thomas in What's Happening Now, a choice that left many fans disappointed and created a significant absence in the revival series that viewers noticed throughout its entire run. King had played the role of Mabel Thomas, the strong-willed and loving mother of Roger and Dee, during the original series from 1976 to 1979, becoming a central figure in the show's family dynamic and providing much of its heart and wisdom. When producers began assembling the cast for What's Happening Now in 1985, they approached King about reprising her role, but the salary they offered her was far below what she felt was appropriate for her contribution to the show's success and her stature as an established actress. King viewed the offer as insultingly low and refused to accept such inadequate compensation, choosing instead to walk away from the project entirely rather than agree to terms that undervalued her work. Her absence meant that the revival series had to proceed without one of its most important maternal figures, leaving Roger and the other characters without the grounding presence that Mama Thomas had provided in the original series. Many fans expressed disappointment that King was not part of the reunion, feeling that the show lost something essential without her character's wisdom and no-nonsense attitude that had been such a key part of what made the original series special. King's decision to stand firm on her worth as an actress, even if it meant missing out on the revival, reflected the ongoing challenges that performers faced in negotiating fair compensation during this era of television production. Fact 10. Anne Marie Johnson's Game Show. Past Anne Marie Johnson's journey to becoming the female lead of What's Happening Now was a long road that included some humble beginnings on television game shows, where she openly acknowledged her status as an aspiring performer trying to break into the entertainment industry. Years before landing the role of Nadine Hudson Thomas, Roger's wife on the revival series, Johnson made her first television appearance as a contestant on the game show Card Sharks, which aired on June 5, 1979, where she was identified simply as Ann Johnson without her full hyphenated name. She also appeared as a contestant on another game show called Child's Play, this time using her complete name, Anne Marie Johnson, and even participated in a pilot episode for a game show called Body Language that never made it to series. During her appearance on Body Language, Johnson was asked to describe her occupation, and she candidly told the audience that she was a struggling actress, a self-description that captured the reality of her career at that moment as someone working hard to get noticed in Hollywood without any guarantee of success. These game show appearances represented the kind of work that many aspiring actors took on during the late 1970s and early 1980s, using whatever opportunities were available to get on camera and potentially be seen by casting directors or producers who might remember them for future projects. Johnson's persistence eventually paid off when she graduated from the University of California, Los Angeles with a degree in acting and theater, leading to her breakthrough role on What's Happening Now in 1985, just 6 years after describing herself as struggling on national television. Fact 11. Barry's triple suicide attempts. Fred Barry faced severe personal struggles during the years following the end of the original What's Happening series, reaching such a low point in his life that he attempted to take his own life on 3 separate occasions before finding a path toward recovery and spiritual healing. Barry had become a millionaire by age 29 through his television success. But the pressures of fame, ongoing battles with drug and alcohol addiction, and the emotional toll of constant fat jokes about his weight pushed him into a deep depression that he struggled to overcome. In a 1996 interview with People magazine, Barry spoke openly about his darkest moments, telling the publication that he had been addicted to drugs and alcohol for 10 years and probably spent $1 million partying and tried to commit suicide 3 times. He also revealed in interviews that he had been experimenting with drugs and alcohol since his teenage years, and that his increasing wealth and fame only made it easier for him to afford more substances, creating a destructive cycle that nearly cost him his life. Barry's turning point came in 1984 when he made the decision to rededicate his life to religion, finding strength and purpose through faith that helped him overcome his addiction and suicidal thoughts. After his spiritual transformation, he became an ordained Baptist minister and worked as a motivational speaker, visiting churches, schools, and community groups to share his story of struggle and recovery. Barry's willingness to discuss his suicide attempts and addiction problems publicly helped break down stigma and showed others facing similar challenges that recovery was possible. Fact 12. The rerun role was originally white. The character of Freddie Rerun Stubbs that became Fred Barry's signature role and one of the most beloved figures in television sitcom history was originally conceived by producers as something completely different from what audiences eventually saw on screen. When the creators of What's Happening were initially developing the show in the mid-1970s, they had written the Rerun character with the intention of casting a skinny and white actor in the role, envisioning someone who looked and acted nothing like the heavy-set African-American performer who ultimately brought the character to life. Barry, who was already in his mid-20s when he auditioned for the role of a teenage high school student, managed to win the part over the strong objections of the show's producers, who had a completely different vision for how this character should appear and who should play him. His audition was so compelling and his natural charisma so undeniable that he convinced the decision-makers to abandon their original concept entirely and reimagine the role around his unique talents and personality. Barry transformed Rerun from whatever the producers had initially imagined into an iconic character defined by his trademark red beret and suspenders, his incredible dance moves borrowed from his time with the street dance group The Lockers, and his lovable personality that made him the breakout star of the series. The character's nickname came from the fact that he had to repeat all his classes during summer school. But Barry's interpretation turned what could have been a one-note joke into a fully realized person who became the heart of the show and remains memorable decades later. Fact 13. Barry's daughter became Lady Rerun Portia. Barry Allen chose to honor her father's most famous role and keep his memory alive by embracing the Rerun character as part of her own professional identity, performing under a stage name that directly connected her to Fred Barry's television legacy. After her father's death in 2003, Portia decided to carry forward the name that had become synonymous with the Barry family by adopting the professional moniker Lady Rerun for her entertainment career. She appeared in a commercial for Safe Auto Insurance Company using this stage name, making it clear to audiences that she was the daughter of the beloved actor who had made Rerun a household name decades earlier. This decision to build her own career around her father's character showed both her pride in his accomplishments and her understanding of the deep connection that fans still felt to the character even years after the original show had ended. Portia was one of Fred Barry's 3 children, along with her siblings DeShannon and Freddie, who worked professionally as Fred Barry Jr., and she grew up watching her father navigate the complicated relationship between his real identity and the character that had defined his life. By taking on the Lady Rerun persona, she created a way to celebrate her father's work while also establishing her own presence in the entertainment industry, using the recognition that came with the Rerun name to open doors while making it clear she was the next generation carrying forward a family tradition. Her choice reflected how deeply the character had become embedded not just in television history, but in the Barry family's own identity and legacy. Fact 14. History repeats itself. Fred Barry found himself at the center of salary disputes that dramatically affected both What's Happening series, creating a pattern where his demands for higher pay played a significant role in ending both the original show and his involvement in the revival. During the production of the 3rd season of the original What's Happening in 1979, Barry led the cast in demanding salary increases from the producers, citing the show's consistently strong ratings as justification for better compensation. The negotiations became increasingly contentious, with Barry and fellow cast member Ernest Thomas even threatening to go on strike if their demands were not met. And Barry actually missed filming one episode titled Dee the Cheerleader during this dispute. Rather than agree to the cast's salary demands, the producers and ABC decided to cancel the series entirely after a tense meeting, bringing What's Happening to an abrupt end despite its popularity with viewers. When What's Happening Now launched 6 years later in 1985, Barry once again found himself in conflict with producers over his compensation after the first season, though this time his departure did not end the entire series, but simply removed him from the cast. Barry's widow Essie later spoke publicly about these disputes, telling Urbanite magazine at Georgia State University that the unwillingness of producers to pay Fred Barry what she believed he deserved in both series led to their early endings and prevented both shows from reaching their full potential. Her perspective suggested that fair compensation for Barry might have allowed both series to run longer and maintain their original ensemble casts throughout their runs. Fact 15. Anne Marie Johnson's successful post-show career. Anne Marie Johnson's career flourished after What's Happening Now ended in 1988, leading her to major roles in television and eventually to positions of leadership within the entertainment industry's most important labor union. Immediately after playing Nadine Hudson Thomas for all 66 episodes of the revival series, Johnson landed the role of Althea Tibbs on the NBC and CBS police drama In the Heat of the Night, where she starred from 1988 through 1993 as the wife of the main character, Detective Virgil Tibbs, giving her 5 years of steady work on a successful series. After leaving that show, she joined the cast of the Fox sketch comedy series In Living Color during its final season in 1993 and 1994, showcasing her versatility as a performer who could handle both dramatic and comedic material. Johnson continued building her television resume with a role as Alicia Barnett on the popular primetime soap opera Melrose Place from 1995 to 1996, followed by numerous guest appearances on shows like Jag and Girlfriends over the following years. Beyond her acting work, Johnson became deeply involved in advocating for performers' rights and fair treatment in the entertainment industry, leading to her election as the first national vice president of the Screen Actors Guild in 2008. Her commitment to labor organizing and protecting actors' interests was so strong that she ran for president of the union in 2009 on the membership first ticket, though she ultimately lost the election to Ken Howard, who became the union's leader instead.